to other places, and sometimes, you wonder, is this the right way to go? I don't want to get controversial here early on with you, but 8,000 yards, is that the right way to go, or do we stick to the TPC Sawgrass, which is, I think one day was less than 7,000 yards, which is very short now for tournament play, and yet not many broke par. It's amazing, the risk-reward thing and the way...
Golf legends say he was filthy, not his swing, his behavior. Colin Montgomerie dominated European golf for nearly a decade. 8 Order of Merit titles, a Ryder Cup legend, one of the most consistent players the game has ever seen. But when you mention his name in certain locker rooms, players cringe. When you ask American crowds about him, they grimace. When you bring up Jakarta, whispers start. This is the story of how one of golf's most talented players became one of its most alienated figures. And it starts with the most recent controversy. In 2024, Montgomerie decided Tiger Woods needed his advice. Ahead of the Open Championship, Monty told the Times that Tiger should retire. He said he hoped people would remember Tiger as he was, not as he appeared at Pinehurst, where Tiger seemingly did not enjoy a single shot. Montgomerie asked what the hell Tiger was doing. He said we are past that point. Obviously, Tiger still feels he can win, Monty said, but we are more realistic. Tiger's response was surgical. The past champion, Tiger explained, is exempt until age 60. Colin is not. He is not a past champion, so he does not have the opportunity to make that decision. Tiger does. The golf world collectively gasped. Tiger had just reminded everyone of the one giant hole in Montgomerie's resume. No major championships, 0. For all his dominance in Europe, for all his consistency, Montgomerie never broke through when it mattered most. And here he was, telling a 15-time major winner when to hang it up. The audacity of the moment cannot be overstated. This was not friendly advice between peers. This was Montgomerie inserting himself into a conversation where he had no standing. Tiger had earned the right to make his own decisions through 15 major victories, through 82 PGA Tour wins, changing the entire landscape of professional golf. Montgomerie had earned the right to be remembered as Europe's best player, never to win a major. The hierarchy was clear, and Montgomerie had ignored it completely. The reaction across social media was swift and brutal. Golf fans who had never heard of the Jakarta incident suddenly wanted to know more about this guy criticizing Tiger. They discovered the ball placement controversy, they learned about the Faxon comments, they watched clips of the Mrs. Doubtfire chants. A new generation was introduced to why Montgomerie had always rubbed people the wrong way. The ick was contagious, spreading to fans who had no historical context, simply saw an older player without majors telling the greatest closer in golf history when to retire. What made the Tiger situation particularly revealing was the timing. Montgomerie chose to make these comments publicly in a major newspaper during a major championship week. He could have reached out privately. He could have offered support behind closed doors. Instead, he made it a headline. He made it about himself. This need for attention, this compulsion to insert himself into narratives where he did not belong, find so much of his career. It was the same impulse that led him to comment on Faxon's divorce. The same impulse that made him argue with fans instead of ignoring them. Same impulse that kept him in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. But this was not new territory for Montgomerie. Throughout his career, he developed a pattern of saying and doing things that made people uncomfortable. Things that violated golf's unwritten codes. Things that made even his supporters shake their heads. The Tiger incident was just the latest chapter. To understand why so many legends got the ick from Monty, we need to go back to where it all fell apart. Jakarta, 2005. The Indonesian Open does not sound like the setting for a career-defining controversy. What happened on the 14th hole changed how the golf world viewed Colin Montgomerie forever. During the second round, Montgomerie's approach shot landed near the lip of a greenside bunker. Television footage showed him struggling to address the ball. The lie was terrible. The ball sat on a slope that made a normal stance impossible. He needed 1 foot inside the bunker and 1 foot outside just to play the shot. It looked uncomfortable. It looked difficult. Then the weather horn blew. Lightning in the area, play suspended. Montgomerie marked his ball and left for the day. When he returned the next morning, something changed. The awkward stance disappeared. Both feet planted comfortably on grass outside the bunker. The contorted position from the night before was gone. To players watching at home and in the locker room, the geometry did not add up. The ball appeared to have moved to a flatter, more advantageous spot. From this improved position, Montgomerie chipped onto the green and saved par. He finished 4th in the tournament. Then he donated his entire prize purse to charity, about £24,000. To the public, it looked generous. To his fellow professionals, it looked like guilt money. Because while Montgomerie surrendered the cash, he kept something more valuable. The Ryder Cup points he earned from that finish. Gary Evans, a European Tour journeyman, became the voice of the locker room's anger. Evans said it was unprofessional not to mark your ball properly. He questioned how Montgomerie could be certain of the exact spot after an overnight delay. He said Montgomerie placed the ball in an undeniably more advantageous position. Other players watched the footage. They saw what Evans saw. The European Tour locker room was in revolt. The situation escalated so severely that the European Tour Players Tournament Committee convened a special meeting. Montgomerie's own peers grilled him for 30 minutes about his actions. The committee issued a formal statement expressing dissatisfaction with what Montgomerie had done. In the In the diplomatic language of professional golf, dissatisfaction is devastating. It signaled that while Montgomerie escaped punishment, he had violated something deeper than the rulebook. He had violated trust. The Asian Tour referee cleared him at the time. Technically, he broke no rule. But in golf, technical innocence is not enough. The sport operates on honor, on self-policing, on the assumption that players will do the right thing even when no one is watching. Montgomerie's actions at Jakarta created permanent smoke, a lingering suspicion that would follow him forever. Do you think the Jakarta incident permanently damaged Montgomerie's legacy, or should his talent overshadow the controversy? Drop your thoughts in the comments and make sure you are subscribed because we are just getting started on this story. 4 years later, the smoke became fire. Sandy Lyle, a two-time major champion and Scottish golf legend, decided he had seen enough. In 2009, the European Tour selected Montgomerie as Ryder Cup captain for the 2010 matches. Lyle felt he deserved the honor. He had won the Open. He had won the Masters. He was a national hero. But the Tour chose Montgomerie instead. Lyle went nuclear. On the eve of the Open Championship at Turnberry, Lyle gave an interview to The Independent. He did not use euphemisms, he did not speak in code. It's the word that cannot be taken back in golf. Cheater. Lyle explicitly linked his opposition to Montgomerie's captaincy to Jakarta. He said what happened there was a form of cheating. He said Monty cheated, yet he gets all the abuse. This was unprecedented. In golf's genteel culture, players do not publicly accuse each other of cheating. They hint, they imply, they let journalists connect the dots, but they do not say the word. Lyle said it, and he said it about the man chosen to captain Europe in the Ryder Cup. The media erupted. The narrative of the Open was hijacked. The European Tour went into damage control mode. George O'Grady, the tour's chief executive, condemned Lyle's comments as wholly inappropriate and ill-timed. Under institutional pressure, Lyle held a press conference to apologize. But his apology was strategic. He apologized for the timing. He apologized for distracting from the Open. He apologized for dragging up old news, but he refused to retract the substance. Reiterated that he believed Montgomerie placed his ball in the wrong position. Montgomerie dismissed the apology as strange and moved on, but the damage was done. This was not some American heckler or tabloid journalist making accusations. This was Sandy Lyle, a man whose name is on the claret jug, a Scottish legend calling out another Scottish legend. It confirmed what many suspected. The ick was real, and it was shared by people who mattered. But Montgomerie's problems with his peers started long before Jakarta. In 1997, before the Ryder Cup at Valderrama, Montgomerie crossed a line that American players never forgave. Weaponized personal tragedy. Brad Faxon was going through a painful public divorce. His personal life was falling apart, and Montgomerie used it as trash talk. Commenting on the American team's composition, Montgomerie singled out Faxon. He publicly stated that Faxon was going through a divorce and mentally would not be with it. In professional golf, where players spend weeks away from their families, the sanctity of private life is paramount. This was grotesque. Montgomerie had taken a man's suffering and turned it into a talking point. The American reaction was visceral. Red Funk became the voice of American disgust. He called Montgomerie the jerk of the world. Funk said when he saw Montgomerie, he would tell him to his face. He said when Monty comes to play in America, he will get the cold shoulder from a lot of guys. Bob Estes piled on, calling Montgomerie a crybaby. Estes said he respected Monty's skills, but when he starts with low blows, that is poor. Montgomerie eventually apologized. He wrote letters to the American team members, including Faxon, but the damage was permanent. The Faxon comment became the lens through which American players viewed Montgomerie. He was no longer just a rival. He was a man who lacked class, a man who would go after your family to gain an edge. This laid the groundwork for what would become a decade-long war with American crowds. Montgomerie's relationship with American golf fans became toxic. He had what sports psychologists call rabbit ears. He could not tune out hecklers. He would stop his pre-shot routine. He would glare. He would gesture to marshals. He would demand removals. Hecklers realized they had power over him. Rattling Monty became a sport within the sport. A well-timed shout could derail his entire round. The cruelty took a personal turn. American crowds latched onto his physical appearance. Resemblance to the Robin Williams character in Mrs. Doubtfire? The chant became the soundtrack to his U.S. Open campaigns. Mrs. Doubtfire, over and over. And Montgomerie could not laugh it off. He could not ignore it. Took it as disrespect to his status as European #1. The fans saw it as fair game for a player who acted superior to them. The situation reached its peak at the 1999 Ryder Cup at Brookline. The atmosphere was a bear pit. The abuse directed at Montgomerie was so venomous that his father left the course. He could not watch his son endure the hatred. During the singles match, Payne Stewart, an American icon, picked up Montgomerie's ball on the 18th green and conceded the match. Stewart reportedly told him enough is enough. Even Stewart, representing the home team, felt the crowd had gone too far. Montgomerie's response to this hostility made everything worse. He called American fans uninformed. He said they were not as knowledgeable as European fans. This elitist retort validated their dislike. By calling paying customers ignorant, Montgomerie positioned himself as a superior being condescending to the masses. He never understood that this lack of populist touch guaranteed he would never be embraced in the United States. No matter how brilliant his golf, he was the villain who told the crowd they were too stupid to appreciate him. The pattern is clear. Everywhere Montgomerie went, friction followed. In Europe, his peers questioned his integrity. Scotland, a national hero, called him a cheater. In America, players refused to speak to him, and crowds mocked him relentlessly. And in 2024, he picked a fight with Tiger Woods and got humiliated on a global stage. These were not isolated incidents. They were symptoms of a deeper problem, an inability to read the room, an absence of self-awareness, a failure to understand that in golf, how you carry yourself matters as much as how you play. The most telling measure of this alienation came in 2012. Montgomerie was inducted into the World Golf Hall of Fame. His resume was undeniable. 31 European Tour wins, 8 Order of Merit titles, a Ryder Cup legend. But the voting results were shocking. Montgomerie received just 51% of the vote, barely over the threshold. In Hall of Fame voting, where legends are typically ushered in with overwhelming support, this was a statistical rebuke. Roughly half the voters, comprised of journalists, administrators, and peers, looked at his resume and voted no. Golf journalist John Hugan captured the sentiment perfectly. Last word on the subject, he wrote, Jakarta. The cheating allegations, combined with his sour disposition and reputation for being difficult, acted as a permanent drag on his legacy. Even his brilliance could not overcome the ick. Colin Montgomerie proved something rare in sports. You can dominate your era and still fail to win the locker room. You can be mechanically gifted and strategically brilliant, but alienate everyone around you. Montgomerie's story is not about talent. It is about the cost of violating golf's unwritten codes: integrity, humility, camaraderie, grace under pressure. For Sandy Lyle, the ick was ethical. For Fred Funk, it was personal. For American fans, it was behavioral. Tiger Woods, it was hierarchical. Each group had its own reason to feel uncomfortable around Montgomerie, but they all felt the same thing, that visceral sense that something was off, that despite all his accomplishments, despite all his records, he did not belong in the inner circle. Montgomerie stands in history as a solitary figure, a man who conquered the European Tour but lost his peers, a player whose legacy will always be discussed with a yes but attached. Yes, he was brilliant, but Jakarta, yes, he was consistent, but he never won a major. Yes, he dominated Europe, called American fans ignorant. Yes, he is in the Hall of Fame. He barely got in. The tragedy of Montgomerie's career is not that he lacked talent. It is that he possessed everything except the self-awareness to protect his own legacy. He had the skill to win majors but somehow never did. He had the platform to be beloved but used it to alienate. He had opportunities to course correct, rebuild bridges, to show humility. Instead, he doubled down. He kept the Ryder Cup points. He called fans uninformed. He told Tiger Woods when to retire. Each decision reinforced the narrative. Each controversy added another layer to the ick. The ick was not manufactured by jealous rivals or biased media. It was earned through a sustained pattern of behavior that violated everything golf stands for. Sport is built on honor and self-regulation, treating opponents with respect. Montgomerie, for all his genius with a golf club, never fully grasped this, and so the smoke from Jakarta still lingers. The echoes of Mrs. Doubtfire still resonate. The sting of Tiger's rebuke still burns. Montgomerie's talent was never in question. Character always was. And in golf, that distinction matters. Matters in how you are remembered. Matters in how easily you get into the Hall of Fame. Matters in whether legends speak your name with reverence or with that uncomfortable pause, that moment of hesitation, that ick. Do you think? Was Montgomerie unfairly targeted, or did he bring the criticism on himself? Did his 8 Order of Merit titles outweigh the controversies? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of golf's most complicated legacies, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We have plenty more stories about the moments that defined golf history.